Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Good.
Thank you to everyone for joining this important discussion during Nova Scotia Human Rights Week. Human Rights Week is a time to celebrate the power of inclusion and I should introduce myself. I am Gola Tarasky-Carr, Director of Race Relations, Equity and Inclusion with the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission. So Human Rights Week is a time to celebrate the power of inclusion, engage across communities, and be inspired by the passion and perseverance of our province's many human rights champions. This year's events include panels and talks featuring dedicated individuals and groups from within the public service, community, and academia, tackling systemic challenges, difficult topics, and the persistent legacies of colonialism and other forms of oppression, showcasing the potential that each of us has to hold positive influence and make change. Among all of the topics that the Commission is featuring this week, this session, honoring our treaty rights, is at the center of all that we seek to do. Honoring our obligations as settlers in Mi'kma'ki remains the most important task for all Nova Scotians, for those who have been here for generations, and also for those who have just newly arrived. We must always keep the spirit of truth and reconciliation and the Commission's calls to action alive in everything that we do. To more deeply recognize the origins of the Human Rights Commission's work and to also acknowledge our obligations, I would like to read the following. Today we gather in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq Nation, which is governed by the treaties of peace and friendship. Mi'kmaq have made this land their home from time immemorial, and they are its past, present, and future caretakers. Despite this, the pursuit of colonialism resulted in stolen lands, encroachment on sacred territory, cultural genocide, and oppression that served to advance the lives of settlers at the expense of all Inuit people. It is in the context of this history that the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission seeks to address persistent, systemic, and institutionalized discrimination resulting from the ideals of white supremacy. As we work together to address the harms of colonialism, we do so in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, drawing upon the resilience and commitment of our forebears to guide us in our important work to protect and promote human rights in Nova Scotia. We recognize the intergenerational impacts of the historic and ongoing injustices against Mi'kmaq people and the resulting privileges of those who continue to benefit from these offenses. We honor and embrace Mi'kmaq wisdom, such as Msanogama, meaning all my relations, which values the inherent interconnectivity of all things, as we strive to foster relationships based on respect for one another's inherent dignity. I invite you to join us in this work with humility and optimism for a better future.
Way Tlasi, Zinda Lisi, Angela Doyle Faulkner, Wiki Jabukdok, Wadabexi Mi'kma'ki. In honor of our amazing elder that we have the honor to be here tonight. We have something that describes a little bit about Elder Joe's past. So I'm going to read that real quickly. So Elder Joe Michael is a Keptin in the Mi'kmaq Grand Council, Acadia's elder in residence, an honorary humanitarian doctorate recipient, and a contributor to Treaty Education Nova Scotia. In April 2024, Elder Joe was the first Mi'kmaq to be knighted, that's how you say it, right? Knighted by the St. George Society in Halifax, an 800-year-old tradition. Elder Joe is a highly regarded inspirational and spiritual leader. Elder Joe promotes a balance between contemporary and traditional knowledge, teachings, and practices to organizations and individuals. Most notably, Elder Joe was the first Mi'kmaq member of the RCMP and he combined his knowledge with contemporary policing practices to increase cross-cultural awareness and develop the RCMP's Aboriginal community policing model. Yes. That remains a part of the, sorry, I forgot my glasses, so please just have some respect, some patience for this. So Elder Joe remains part of the Force's cadet training program in Regina. Before retiring as Detachment Commander, wow, you're amazing. He became the Force's pipe carrier, responsible for performing sacred rituals and ceremonies and helping all races better understand Aboriginal culture. Please join us this evening, December 4th. That's written in there, I didn't notice that. And just please open your heart and really listen to what our elder has to say, because he is such an incredible knowledge sharer. He's going to share his knowledge with us tonight, and that is an honor. So Willal and Elder Joe, we are honored to be in your presence.
Okay, well, thank you. And we got that. I want to make sure you're talking about me, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
We do have a special gift for Elder Joe, but we're waiting for that to arrive.
Yeah. Well, everybody, wait, and I usually start off with welcome everybody to our territory, and we wasn't too far from here where several of the settlers came from Pier 21 long ago. Or it seems long ago, but our culture has grasped that knowledge and friendship, and which eventually was the Peace and Friendship Treaty. There's no doubt about it. We had our ups and downs, having to work in relationships of back then in 1752. Even the first treaty was not accepted in October. That was tore up. Nobody knows about that, because one side didn't like it. It's funny though, if one side didn't like it, so where's the resolution there? Could be the birth of trying to find resolution? Or was it something that was too much on one side? So they got back together again in November, and both sides, they found that resolution where, yeah, okay, you got to fish, you got to hunt, but you got to stay on the reserve. So it's give and take. It's part of history. You can't change it, but you can work with what's there now. So the Peace and Friendship Treaty has continued on even every month in October. I'm just going to sit down here. But and there's going to be a lot of questions that may pop up right there and then. If you wanted to just kind of hold off those questions, and maybe the storyline will help you to answer that question, maybe, oh yeah, that's why he's saying that, or that's what he said earlier. So we got a late comer coming in. Yeah. So resolution is such an important, I don't know how would you say it in English, but it's got to be agreed on two people, or two forms of government, or two individuals, organization. By having the resolution, there has to be truth in there. And the TRC, the very first word is truth. The truth has to be told. The R is resolution. And the C could be mid-parenting, consultation. anything that involves, you imagine though, back in 1400s or even 1300s, whatever. How many lives could have been saved of human rights or anything like that compared to what's taking place now? Sometimes I often wonder, did it change? Did it really change about human rights? What's taking place over in other countries? Innocent people are being injured and worse, death. So human rights is still required. We need that. Power is very powerful. Any government, whether it be foreign or domestic or anything. And the thing about foreign governments and even our own political structures, even on the reserves, we do have disputes. We do have different opinions. And the thing about that, they're forgetting the elders' knowledge. They're forgetting to go to the elders. We have seen 6 generations, 5 generations of kids being brought up. They're the ones that has the knowledge, but nobody's listening to them. And the other thing about the younger ones, we have to educate them. You know, it's more to it than ABC and 1, 2, 3. But when they get into high school, and if they venture on to university, education is such an important thing for them to learn. But they have to have the work and knowledge, or they had to have some inspiring words they could take when they go into university. You have to develop life skills, training and all this stuff, everything, just to survive off the reserve. Or if you're living off the reserve, to an environment where it's a different culture. And I find a lot of students at Acadia, they come in right off the rest. You know, don't realize mom is not cleaning the clothes no more. Mom is not cooking the food no more. And you can forget about dad giving you any money down there, because he ain't gonna, dad's not there. So it's a whole new lifestyle in their own atmosphere, their own culture. It is a shock for most of them. How they have to budget their money, their student loans, how to make sure that they have enough food, ensuring the studies and stuff. So I try to guide them in that way to help them out. And we try to give them that home feeling atmosphere. You know, sometimes in the center, we'll cook fried bread, or we'll cook something that helps them to stay there. And it's like everything else. They get homesick and they want to go home, or they're stressful with their marks being a little lower. Then some people, professors, will say, basically smarten up. We want to continue going to university. But they don't know the culture of those individuals. This is where, is this human rights should kind of be taught down there? Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think human rights should have their own a stepping stone, not only in Acadia University, but St. Mary's, Dalhousie, Mount St. Vincent, or whatever. I think they have to be more aware of culture awareness training. And that's part that I do there at Acadia. You know, I have a TP there. And they come and they smudge, and you notice the smudge bowl and my sage. And I have the sacred pipe here. I got tobacco. And I was gifted with tobacco coming here. Sometimes when I'm down there and I see a student, and I lived long enough and seen enough that when I know that individuals they have low esteem, they're almost at borderline, well, I had enough of this stuff, I'm going back. They're quitting. And not in the Maritime, but some of them came from north, like way up north, Callaway, all those. And because they're missing that home culture, their own culture. So what I try to do is I try to ground them with the smudging and try to help them to regenerate, to recharge them in looking through with a lesson of two-eye seeing. Two-eye seeing is really important in any culture, in all cultures. Two-eye seeing is I'm looking at the life after through your eyes. But non-Indigenous people have to put those glasses on there and looking at it from an Aboriginal side that are living after there or living on there. The two-eye seeing teaching is very important in understanding of culture. And it's really important that don't leave nobody behind. You know, some youth or adults are advanced in their wisdom, their knowledge. And it's something that my elder told me a long time ago. He said, there are no bad helpers, only bad elders who fail to teach their elders or teach their helpers. And I thought about that and I said, geez, that kind of makes sense. You know, if the elder wasn't really caring for that helper, how is he going to learn the proper procedures, the proper ceremonies? Because the elder didn't want, I don't know, he didn't know or he didn't know what to do, how to teach that young guy. So my elder said, no, there are no bad helpers, just bad elders who failed to train them. Now, human rights, let's get back on that. What is the difference? Well, not really what the difference is. So you got human rights and you got Charter of Rights. And if you look at it, you said, are they the same thing? As a former enforcement person, I really didn't know what human rights was. I'll be honest with you, I didn't. I have no knowledge. I wasn't involved in human rights. Now, the Charter of Rights was a little different. That was embedded in everybody, every policeman. You know, when you detain somebody, they have that right under the Charter. And you got to inform them. You don't have to say nothing. But if you say anything, you know, we got to write it down. They're very specific. And sometimes human rights doesn't give that opportunity. They really know. I find lately, human human rights has to be advocated a little more. Got to be educated through the Human Rights Commission. They have to be getting out there and saying, hey, you know, this is a human being. You don't take advantage of a situation like that. prime example. Three first Mi'kmaq natives or Mi'kmaq people, because of dispute in the lobster or fishing or anything, they were arrested. Okay, that's the Charter of Rights, you got to tell them, you're going to be charged or not charged, whatever. Then that line was crossed, which involved human rights, even dignity. And what that department did sure violated Section 34, human rights. They took their shoes away from them. They took the cell phone away from them. They took their vehicle away. And they told them to walk. This was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's really human rights. In all my service, I have never, ever even thought about something like that. I more like caring, like, okay, I can pick up somebody that's intoxicated. My responsibility is ensuring that he doesn't get injured, ensure that he doesn't pass out and the body fluid choke him. Because I'm responsible for that individual, no matter what. But when those 3 people were walking on the road, they didn't care about their responsibility. And I don't even know whatever took place after that. But something should have been happening there. So that's part of human rights. So a lot of things on I'm trying to think of a good story here where we all could relate. There's some questions that may be coming up that, okay, I see your point. And a lot of that thing I find in our people in our communities is what is that word I was looking for? I was looking for that word. It has to do with their living conditions, but it's big enough in Ontario, the Ojibwe, the Cree, and all that. And it's that the water is atrocious, I guess, with a lot of mercury, with a lot of chemicals and stuff like that. And it seems to me, I really don't know. I don't take sides in politics. I stay neutral and I don't give opinions, because you have to know the full story of that situation. Like, it's really interesting because the water is so stable. It's part of our life. It's a life that we need, the water. We need clean water. We need things like that. How our environment affects our lives. And it affects our lives in many, many ways. The food, the fish. We eat the fish. And there's mercury or chemicals in there. We don't know. Because you're dealing with very small molecules of things in the fish. We don't see it. And sometimes a fish will have big sores on their backs or on their sides. Anybody in their right mind ain't gonna eat that fish. But that molecule, the sores are inside, we don't see unless it's under a microscope or something like that. Then you might see it. And it's another form of why are people are getting cancer prevalent now. I never knew our people, the rise in people getting cancer now, First Nations. I could see diabetes is in the incline now. And there's a lot of things that are health-wise. High blood pressure. It's medical. So what steps can a person take to improve humanity? I did receive the Humanities Doctorate from Acadia. But I went further with that. I spoke to a lot of people from Paraguay or some third world countries where humanity didn't mean nothing to them. The government would come in their villages and in pickup trucks. No indication it was government truck or anything like that. And they would take those individuals and put them in the back of a truck, and that's the last time you see them. That's really scary, And it's really scary when that individual seeing their aunt or uncle being tossed in the back of a truck while they're running. This wasn't like hearsay or anything. They witnessed it and they told me what took place. I seen inside their homes where they have 4 big locks, steel door. That was something to see. Humanity and human. It's kind of like we don't live that way. We shouldn't live that way. But I feel that we must be educated. We got to educate our government, our people. But we also got to, first of all, we must educate ourselves. We have to educate ourselves, unlearn what we learned before. We become in long-term effect that I never heard too much before. We have become more like the Stockholm Syndrome. We're told to stay on a reserve. We'll look after you. We'll feed you. We'll clothe you. But that's like 8 generations of that. It's hard to try to tell somebody, educate your children, educate our friends. But we have to educate everybody that's involved. It's a task that really, it's not going to be an overnight thing. And when we have resolutions between 2 people or 2 groups or anything, it's hard to take sides if you're in the middle. It's hard to say your fault or your fault. By having resolution by a mediator, it takes time to understand what is it they want. even the local postal strike right now. It's the worst time, well, not the worst time, but it's Christmas feeling now, it's Christmas. A lot of people relied on things, and some elders might not believe in their direct deposit and their checks are in the mail. Or somebody sent money or whatever, or gifts or anything. Now it's tied up. It's hard to say this, but what is it they want? What is it they're not given? What is it to take to resolve that issue? It's a situation where even as an elder, I went to the Postal Canada and listened to both sides. You know, it would probably, I would probably more enlightened, yes. Would I have make a decision? Probably not. Probably not. Because they have to make a decision among themselves. And when you push or poke or anything, the ugly word that I don't like is anger will come into play. Anger with the other side. Or you may be angry with somebody that said something that they shouldn't have said on your side, making comments. So it's everywhere. You cannot deal with anybody when they're being angered. You cannot deal with anybody that has a one-minded view. You just can't do that. Any disputes that I've settled in my TP, first thing I do, I don't want to listen to their stories. I don't want to hear the other side or come here. No. What I do is I light the sage. I put it in a bowl. I light it. I have my eagle critter. And what I do, I tell them both, leave your ego at the doorway of the teepee. Leave your titles at the entrance of the teepee. Don't bring no animosity in here. Don't bring no hate. Only bring harmony, tranquility, and peace into the teepee. So I proceed to light the sage.
Sorry, that I'm not hearing.
So I proceed to light the, can I light it here? Okay, so we're going to do an actual thing here. So, and the other thing too, when you in buildings like this, you deal a lot with directives and policies. You can't do this, can't do that. Okay, you know, even though it's a spiritual thing, you know. But we've been doing this for a long time. But you don't want the fire truck coming in here and actually it is yeah, they could and what they do, they find the building $10,000 for any fire alarm call, okay? So just gather some change up. Women in first year, but get out of the way, I come through. So anyway, they're in there, two people are in there. And resolution is very simple. All right, I need two volunteers. It doesn't man or woman, doesn't matter. I need two volunteers. Bring your chair there. Look what you're on is. Before you sit down. So. Their eagles are out there. Like I said earlier. And the way I'm going to do smudge is I'm going to explain to them as if they never been smudged before. They know how to be smudged, they know. But I'm going to explain in case they don't. But this is part of teaching. And we always go this way. Follow the sun. Always follow the sun. So who's ever down there? So what we're going to do as you watch her, but she's cleaning her hands. She's cleaning her hands, right? And what she's gonna do is she's gonna open her mind. She's opened her mind for communication, right? And now she's braiding her hair. Now her eyes, so you can see the two eyes see it. That's what open her eyes. Then her ears, so you can hear. You're gonna hear what's being said. And her mouth. Always speak good, Sonny. Always speak good when you talk, when you smudge your mouth. Don't speak negative. I ain't gonna listen to you, I ain't gonna speak good words. Then she's gonna open her heart up. This is what she's doing now. She'll open up her heart. Look at that. And her hands, her arms. So when they reach out for their loved one, hold them, stuff like that. Now we're gonna turn around and I'm dusting, they call it dusting, but it's pleasant. I'm gonna knock off all those negative people backstabbing them, talking about them, and all this stuff. We don't need to carry that burden around. So we're just knocking that stuff off. Now, she's called purge. It's purge and she's smudge. Same thing. But this time, I'm not going to say anything. Just watch what you do. And sometimes they'll lift up their leg when they walk on Mother Earth. That's like. So those are advanced people with much, she could do TV. So anyway, bossy, sit down. So now, resolution is very simple. And what we're going to do is, hang on a second, get here. So it's always left to right. So this eagle feather is very, very old. And I keep it. So she has the eagle feather. And sometimes I use the talking stick, but the eagle feather in Aboriginal content it's more live. As long as she holds the eagle feather, she does not interfere. You don't interfere. Nobody interferes if we're in a circle. She says her piece because she's talking from the heart. And when she's talking from the heart, the things will come out. This is part of resolution. And after she's finished talking, she never interfered. She'll hand the eagle feather over to her. Again, she does the same thing. But maybe she might say something, I didn't know that. That's how you felt. I didn't know how it affected you. She does not say anything, but she's not the holder of the eagle feather or anybody. Only her will talk. And maybe she might say something that she thought about it. I didn't know that. You know, and saying within herself, in her heart, maybe I should have paid more respect to that. I didn't respect that, your ways and your culture, or any resolution. So the shield is down. The shield is down. Now they're starting to communicate. Because without really talking back and forth, that she's paying respect to her and he's paying respect to her. So after she said her piece, then we go on the second round. She hands the feather over to her. Now she's got the eagle feather. She may say something, or she may say something to the other person. I didn't know. Now she's allowed to say that stuff. Resolution is very simple. If the eagle feather wasn't there, there would be there'd be just a fence coming up. She's defending, arguing, stuff like that. So what we this here, those shields are down. And that's part of our traditional, that's our traditional teachings when we do. Because somebody along that talking circle has the answer. And resolution is not that difficult. It's not that difficult. She's got boundaries. She has boundaries. Don't cross. Being respectful for her, to her, then mutual agreement comes into play. So second round. So that's 2 rounds now that they talked about. Maybe something might trigger something. And maybe something might come out in conversation to resolve it. So that's the second round. Now give it to her. The third round, there might be silence. If there's silence, she's starting to understand. I spoke my piece. I spoke what I have to say. She didn't say nothing. Third round. She might say apologetic. Or you might say, I understand. That's the third one, right? And I mean, that's all you could say. And she might reply, I forgive you, I understand, accept my, So that's the third. And now, this is the 4th round. This give her now. Nothing said. There's no more reconciliation to be said. Get it off her chest, feels good. Now she cannot take it back to her. She's got nothing to say, she feels good. No more anger, animosity. So I'm there in the middle, the elder. So I asked for the eagle feather. Gotta go that way. See, the eagle feather always goes around, follows. I would take the eagle feather. Then I would say, respect each other's boundaries. Respect each other's culture. Respect everybody's opinions. And that's resolutions all about. Simple resolution, how collectively you come in there. When you leave your egos, your titles out there. And that's what it's all about. Don't become self-centered. I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you, I got more education, I got more degree. That don't mean nothing when you're arguing. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So that's First Nations, that's our original TRC. And in the meantime, they may have what they call a feast. They may have salmon, they may have fried bread, or they may have something, you know, to celebrate of their commitment in the resolution. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much when people get together. But I tell you what hurts me, it's appropriation. I really, really have problems with appropriation these days. Appropriation is somebody stealing somebody else's identity. Somebody else is taking their custom where they have no knowledge. What I did there, I had to learn that as an elder's helper. My elder taught me how to do that. And he always said, no, don't give no opinions there. That's not your circle. You know. But that's when I said earlier, there are no bad helpers, just bad elders who fail to teach their elders the proper way. And that's where a lot of people are committing the appropriation. Is that part of human rights? That's a borderline. I would say, personally speaking, I say yes. That was they're abusing human rights. It's my right, and in my culture. It's not your culture, because it's used in our culture. And they do it for financial gain. It's a financial gain that they make big bucks, big money. When other First Nations come and they see that, they won't participate in any ceremonies. They'll just kind of, they see somebody, that's these First Nations, and they'll slander along. But they prey on government groups, agencies, anything like that. And it's like a virus. The virus, they affect it into the system until they find out. Just recently. And the thing is, I'm thinking about what is human rights? A minister in the government got called out because he wasn't who he was. People will have stole identity, claiming to be who they are, and they found out they're not who they are. Appropriation. At what point is that line where human rights? It's a borderline. You have to educate a lot of people. You have to educate, do a lot of workshops. When I go to several workshops, the words are echoed by my elder. And my elder, the strange thing about it, sometimes I kind of stop talking for a second because I'm thinking, I'm seeing him. You seen the bed. He called me. His wife said, come in, Joe, you don't have much time. So I went and seen him. He never said, go away, hello, how you doing? He said, Joe, there are people stealing our culture, our ceremonies. You must protect our ways, our culture. There's not much I could say after that, other than yes, I will do it. And And that was all that was said that night. Complete silence for 5 minutes, and he kind of dozed off, and I said, okay, I told his wife there, that was his message to me. And 2 days later, he went into the spirit world. So when I do openness now, I talk about appropriation. But I'm very limited in the time frame. Sometimes, well, you only got 5 minutes, Joe, you only got 2 minutes to do smudging. It takes that much to talk about appropriation. And then the worst thing they can tell me I got 5 minutes. I'll take 20 minutes then. Anyway, part of that, and the other thing, a lot of those, all our ceremonies are time consuming, take time to learn what is the smudging, what is the talking circle, what is the pipe ceremony, sacred. And part of that is a lot of training goes into those individuals. If I taught her on a vision quest, and when she's ready for the vision quest, it's probably one of the hardest things that she's ever going to go through. And the teaching, before she goes on the vision quest, she would have all the ammunition, I guess, and she would have all the things that she needs to protect her. And the confidence I would have in her or him is that you can make it. And part of the vision quest is really about you. I already did it. It's not about me no more, it's about you as the helper. And when you reach that level, you still cannot, even when you pass the vision quest, you cannot yet do it until the elder says, you know, the umbilical cord, is it? When you're being cut in life. Now you go on. It's the same thing with our children. We teach them, we educate them, we feed them. And then when they're ready to go on their own, because we know our children are going to survive, because we taught them how to survive. And that's something that comes through life skills, comes through life learning, everything. And it comes through our training. It's not only just me that trained my sons. It was my aunt or my other uncle. Because I'm not there 24 hours a day watching them. You know, Dad's coming. No, Dad, you better worry about your grandmother and your uncles, because they're watching too. So it's a community upbringing of children. We somehow or another, we kind of lost that continuity, unfortunately. We just kind of, they just run wild now, and it's hard to say that, but you know, we live the life to what we live now. We've become very sheltered, I guess, more or less. Like we don't, and the community is kind of so far apart now. They're getting further and further apart. But in some communities, and this is where, in Caleb's Lodge, this is where I'm trying to bring that community back together, to bridge the culture, traditional. But still, I'm not going to give up my internet and my cell phone. I like that, One good thing about settlers anyway. No, when it was over in Asia, I brought it over. But, and that's a lot, and that's a lot, because there's so many ways that the women, here's the example, a good example right here. The women in the Mi'kmaq society, believe it or not, were the bosses. They were the matriarch society. They told the men when to fish, when to hunt, when to fight. All the decisions came from the women, the Mi'kmaq women. Little known, when the Indian Act come in, colonialism come in, and the Indian Act come in, the women's voices unfortunately went deaf. Only men are allowed to talk, and it has to be under Indian Act. But that's a political thing there. The Indian Act, you know, the chiefs, stuff like that. What happened to the heritage, I can't pronounce it, heritage chiefs? Huh?
Hereditary chief.
Yes, heritage chief, like the grand chief and the grand council. You know, I'm on the grand council, captain, but I was selected by the community and other grand captains. You know, I would like to have a voice in their decisions when they go to the band or they have a plebiscite or whatever. Because we're looking at it as a long-term for the people. What's gonna happen to my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren? And when they get older, what's gonna happen to, you know, we have to prepare for the future. And part of that, what's that got to do with human rights? Well, it's got a lot to do with human rights. Human rights, and it's not Human Rights Commission, but the human rights is that for individual, make sure that they're not being prosecuted for crimes without, you know, formally or without a doubt being in the criminal justice system. You know, and I seen it. I said, "Why are you pleading guilty to that?" Well, I was there. I said, "You were there, but you were passed out." Well, I was there, and I said, no, don't plead guilty to that. You know, you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that's part of human rights. That's part of human rights where people get stigma or they get, you know, unfortunately, things like that. So, how are we doing for time? Huh?
We're doing great.
Okay, what time is it now?
I was just checking to see if there are any questions in the chat.
Yeah,
Or if
let's-
we wanted to open it up to questions.
Yeah, I'm going to open it up for questions and be upfront. Don't sugarcoat it for me, okay? Just be right up front.
But it is 7? It is 7.
What time is it?
7. 7:00.
7:00.
Yeah.
I've been talking for an hour. Record. Anyway, any questions?
I have to go, have an appointment at the hospital. Waiting for a year, over a year. So I just wanted to say you have kind of a unique, point of view. Having been an RCMP officer and native, this is, really valuable for us to be able to listen to it.
Yeah.
So I have no questions. I just wanted to say thank you before I run off. See, I'm sorry. It's good to, as well.
Take care.
Bye, sorry.
When she closes the door, we'll talk about her. Who's that woman in there? Oh, she hasn't left yet.
Thank you.
There were, I was just thinking there were, yes, go ahead, yes, yeah.
Hello, another job. I'm very curious to learn more about the where the line is. You talked a lot about like kind of the line and when it crosses human rights and trying to like figure it out. And I'm very curious to learn more about the governance in the Grand Council. Because I met some of the chiefs and they said that only male descendants, he said only their sons can inherit that title. And so I thought, okay, you know, that's cultural, right? And to what extent does culture impair human rights in a Mi'kmaq specific governance like the Grand Council?
On the Grand Council?
Like, is that considered sex-based discrimination, even though it's traditional practice?
Yeah,
Or is it traditional practice if we're saying that Mi'kmaq, we're matriarchal society? Well, it doesn't show up to me in the Grand Council, so that's my question. I'm curious to learn more about it.
yeah. Well, really, that's a really good question. See, what happened was the Grand Council said, okay, sometimes, let me go this way. You get all the males, you got the Grand Chief and you got a Grand Council sitting in council, right? And then you have a Mi'kmaq woman coming in to the Grand Council meeting, right? Long ago, before the European stuff like that, you know, they had the knowledge, they have the wisdom, and they had the pull, the political pull saying, okay, you are taking too much animals away from your friend. Why? Well, matriarch, the woman knows that stuff, right? I guess that's not what really the question was. Okay.
Well, it kind of sounds like they're checks and balances.
Yeah, well, let's say when the women back in that time, they ruled, they ruled, and then they told the men, literally told the men when to hunt, when to fish, and when to go to war, and when they go to new camps and stuff like that. Unfortunately, when the settlers came, they took their culture. They took their culture and paid it into our culture. No, we don't talk to women. I'll talk to you, but I ain't gonna talk to her. I'll talk to him. So a lot of the culture was thrust against the Mi'kmaq men, you know, and this is why that Indian Act is, I have an issue with the Indian Act, really, I really do. Because it's controlled by the government and it was whatever, but if you took away that Indian Act right now, today, we said, no, it's gone out the window, right? You imagine the darkest days in our culture would be when that Indian Act goes. All the treaties are gone. All the medical benefits, all the education, all the government that funded is no longer there. No one ever thought about that. Because when we lose that air, that Indian Act, this is where a lot of reserves now are looking at, not consultation, but they're looking at self-government. And they're looking at how they're gonna survive. It's gonna happen, you know, eventually. It is gonna happen where, and unfortunately, I don't wanna say any more about it because this is my vision I see. If we're in a TP or in a sweat lodge, I would speak my vision. I would speak what I seen. But when we're in a public place like this, on Zoom and all that stuff, you know, you may sound a Looney Tune. What's this guy talking about? You know, he's talking through his hat, you know, but that's true though, eh? Yeah, so when you're in there and then you see these other people in the sweat lodge and in the teepee when they're smoking ceremony pipe or smudging, they'll look at it and say, it's gonna happen. Are we ready for it? No, we're not ready for it. We're nowhere close to it. But we have to educate that's why I want to push so much in educating our youth. Get them in schools, get them educated, whether it be lawyers, doctors, or whatever. you know, we have to give them support. So as far as matriarch society, unfortunately, even now, it's starting to come back, I find. There are more and more more female chiefs now. I never heard that before. You know, maybe one. First female chief I ever heard was a Millbrook, Rachel Marshall. That's the first chief I knew was female. You know. Then they were dominated by the males. Again. But now you got my community's got a female and in different other communities now, 3 or 4 officers got female. Because the way I look at it, the woman chief has more survival instincts. They have more caring for the youth, the children. And that's why it's gonna be you're gonna see more women chief eventually, which is good, but it's to slowly take back the matriarch society of leadership. You know. I hope that it's so many ways you could probably describe in your question. There's so many avenues that you could take. You want to take a shortcut? Okay, go this way. But I don't know if the bridge is out. I don't know if we got high water. It's not a shortcut no more. Or the bushes may overgrown, whatever. You had a question there, David? Darlene? Age?
Excuse me, one second. I was just wondering, you talk about the matriarchs in our clans.
Yeah.
They were known as clan mothers.
Yeah.
So when the clan mothers decided that there was to be war, per se, against the Corporation of Canada for breaking our treaties, that would be the cause of the war, right? Cause of the war would be 1726, 1752, and 1763. So by breaking our treaties, they constantly needed ratification. But the ratification wasn't on our benefit, I don't feel.
No.
The ratification of the treaties was for their benefit. So how, over all of these years that we have stood on our treaties, we still get injustice as a human, because we are human, we are ill-known people of this land. How do you feel that we feel when it happens to us as matriarchs, as ill-known people, period?
Well, you know, these are really good questions. Like, when you talk on the 1752 treaty, is that the current one now? You're talking about was broken? Yeah, I guess the question is, how is it broken? Because a violation of the rights of be able to fish a modern livelihood, or is it the right cut logs on crown land? You know, I think that's when the mediation from that government agencies, you know, they have to be put in a circle and leave your titles again.
Okay, I understand that.
And then have really have women in there. You know.
So when we do go in for consultation, we're not heard. Again, because of the patriarchal system.
Yeah, but how long they were told when Don Marshall got charged for Eland, right? That's over 30 years ago now, probably longer. And the Supreme Court said we're allowed to go fishing moderately. They didn't even sit down with our people yet to discuss what is moderate fishing. But our people in the political side of it, you know, we're allowed to go fishing. But no discussions with DFO. And when there's no discussion, then comes, I'm gonna do it anyway. And unfortunately, those things that happen in New Brunswick with Eel River Bar, all those places like that. The DFO just kind of rolled over boats and started throwing people in jail. Down here in Yarmouth, you know, they charging people, taking their nets, cutting their nets. And the public are also fighting our people, cutting their nets, and they're taking a lot of things, and there's, you know, there's things that happen down there that shouldn't happen. Like cars burning down, buildings burning down, people getting assaulted, getting beat up. Or being charged, but never being convicted, but charged. So they take the nets away from them, take the boats away from them, tied up in the dock for 2 years. What is that a human rights issue? If I took your boat away from you, took all your nets, but I never charged you for 2 years, that's your livelihood. Those are your children food, if you get lobsters or whatever. Is that human rights issue? To prevent you from getting your livelihood? You know, it's a good argument for, you know, for a lot of people. But when you can't argue with them, the trouble is when you argue with anybody, it doesn't pan out too good. You know, you cannot argue with them, right? Be logic about it and say, okay. Anyway.
Can I ask, what treaty was broken
Yeah,
for the Alton gas fight? That's been
there was no treaty there.
that they were gonna stand up for.
Well, it was an environmental issue, right? And what they did, you have a multi-million-dollar company, right? Multi-million. You know, and I think in the papers, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in the paper. They dropped $10 million there. And they never achieved what they were supposed to do.
They actually spent $75 million.
Well, I got
I
shortchanged
know.
there, didn't I?
I know.
Yeah, well, you know no more, because, you know, you were part of that, right?
But I was wondering what your opinion was on what treaties were broken
Yeah.
that you feel at that time with the Alton gas fight.
But there was no treaty there, it was just the environmental, study involved in fishing. I mean, I don't know,
But our treaties state that we're allowed to fish hunt. So that would have broke our treaty on that river for being able to fish in clean water.
yeah, but they didn't,
For the future
they
generations.
never stopped our people from fishing and hunting there.
No, but it would have if
Why?
that corporation went through and poisoned the waters, right?
Well,
would have broke
like
our
I said,
treaties.
that's what I said earlier in my open thing there.
Right.
What chemicals go in the fish we eat? And this is why our people are getting more cancers. You know, it's environmental. It was an environmental concern. You know, but why? How come our chiefs never got involved? I often wondered that, and I'm saying, what happened there? And it kind of led up to the women to defend the rivers. And I'll give you guys credit. You kicked ass. And the women stood there in front with the tree truck house, you know, cold, winter, rain, and you know, with the enforcement and stuff like that, you know, the women's still there, which is why I support them. You know, if they said do a pipe ceremony, I will. If they want to do smudging, I will. If we'll go fight, also somebody bring me some smoke when I go to jail. But the thing about that, it's such a we're such a becoming such a divided entity in government now. Even if, like I said earlier, my community is so divided. And there's different communities that are even divided further. And then some communities thrive on self-government. You know, there are probably about 2 or 3 out of 13, they could probably survive without government agency support. 2 that I know of right now. The third one is getting strong or getting financially, you know. But you got 10 more reserves that are need to be educated in a lot of things. Right?
Just another question, Ellen. Do you believe that the grassroots people have a human right? When
Do I
they
believe
stand
in
up for our
grassroots
treaties?
people?
Do you believe the grassroots people have a human right when they stand up for our treaties?
Sure. I think when you explain yourself or you explain what is your case, Lord, what is the case, you know, and then that's between you and human rights to discuss, you know. What happened if, I don't speak for human rights, I'm not, you know, but if they say it's not an issue, then what the grandmothers do. Or, you know, it's like, it's in consultation, right? You know, but in consultation is, you don't speak for the Indian Book Band, or you don't speak for Millbrook Band or SSONI you're a member to, you know, and I think that's where the Constitution is kind of watered down quite a bit, and the continuity is not there, you know. But if I stood out there all by myself, it's my identity. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't stand out there too long. I'll be in jail and court ordered and stuff like that. So is it a human right issue? You know, it's something that you have to discuss with them, eh? You know. And the thing about that is you have to be clear. You have to have objectives. You have to know what your subject is. You have to know what direction you're going. You know, a lot of things that will affect what is human rights. What is the definition? You know, it's no different than somebody with a car. You know, I give you $1,000 to buy a car, or 2,000, 20,000, doesn't matter. You buy a car. Well, now you're going to buy insurance on that car. Now you're going to buy registration license for that car. And now you have to buy a license to drive that car. See, there's 4 things right there. Is any of them human rights relation? No, no, they're not human rights. But if I had a handicap and I was in a wheelchair or use of my legs or whatever, and I rigged up something so I could put the brakes down and put the gas pedal on, and the police stops me. And they charged me for, because I wasn't able to drive that car because I didn't have 2 legs or 1 arm or 2 arms. Is that a human rights issue? I still have control of the vehicle. I can stop, drive, steer. Is that a human rights issue? And they charged me. So there's that line now. You know, I would fight it. If it was me, if I had leg amputated and they charged me because I didn't have 2 good legs, I'm not allowed to drive that car, but I still have control, access to brakes, pedal. So human rights is that you must weigh the 2 together. You know, I would fight that charge and probably would win because my human rights was violated. And the same thing with everything else. It's whether it's been fishing, hunting, or anything. it leaves for discussion. And this is where we all must learn how to do consultation by talking circle or in a circle where we understand each other, understand both cultures and everything like that. Understand the definition of what is human rights, what is civil rights, what is charter rights, what are those things, you know? The civil law, criminal law, municipal bylaws. You know, there's a lot of things that you have to be aware of what's taking place here, you know. So every scenario has a different outcome. Even though it's the same thing that's happened there, but it may have a different effects, costs and effects, like, you know, different. So a lot of it is, you can't really, one shoe fits all sort of type thing. I use that several times. One shoe does not fit everybody. You know, size 9 shoes. There's 5 of us in here, in this room here, that wear size 9. But they're not all gonna fit. Even though they'll fit 9, they may have wide or they may have narrow, but it's still size 9. So one shoe doesn't fit all. The same thing with anything, you know. And that's where they tried to impede on it, that one shoe fits all, and you can't do that. You can't compare what's happening in our Mi'kmaq territory to people in Ontario and BC, Ontario, anywhere. You know, you cannot compare them. You know, it's individual in the communities. There are 13 communities in Nova Scotia. Every one of them is unique, different, politically. And every one of them is different from the way they're brought up. You know. What, you know, there's a subject that never came up. It's not an argument or start an argument, but it's abuse. Our own people and people of other races have abused things. The fishing industry was abused by trawlers and big fishermen. They took away all the cod now. There's no more cod coming here. They took away all salmon. This year, I wanted to get a moose. They took that away from us. Not only took away from us, they took away moose hunting from non-Aboriginal people too. Nobody's allowed to hunt moose for 3 years. What caused that? What happened there? Is that a human rights issue? No. It's the stock. It has to be, you know, somebody abused the treaty rights. That took down the moose population so much, so bad. People that abused it. People have gone the same principle with the lobsters, make millions. And they're brought in back. But it's an argument, you know, it's a treaty right. Okay, well, we're paying for it. Our whole community is paying for it now. So abuse has some disadvantage, and you know, like people take advantage of it. Eh? It's like everything else. You may take Tylenol for pain. Over time, then you take extra Tylenol, because plain Tylenol doesn't affect no way, so you take extra strength Tylenol. Your body can immune to it. And now you're taking Tylenol with codeine, because Tylenol extra strength don't affect no more. It's the tolerance of filling up our system. You know, then the next thing you know, it's narcotics. And it's life skills, you gotta teach. Education is so important in our, with our young ones, eh? And not only that, but it's also to the people that are there that want to learn. Smudging, same thing. You gotta have open mind. I might not like you, but I'll listen to what you say. You know. Well, I'm starting to like you now. You know what I mean? I'm starting to understand what you're talking about. And that's, it's all about resolution, right? It boils right down to resolution. I think the first word in the human rights commission is resolution. I wouldn't be surprised if you could find that word in there. First, second, third paragraph, right? Sentence. You're gonna see a resolution in there. Any other questions?
And if you don't have any questions online, and I hesitate to stop this beautiful conversation.
No questions online.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you. The gift of your teaching has been very deep. And the gift of your questions tonight has been beautiful as well. With that, I just want to tell you how deeply honored we are to have you with us tonight.
I've been hearing flute music. Can you turn it up? Seriously, I wanna see if I can pick it up.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little
That'll
bit.
be his closing.
It's the closing.
That's his closing. He wants to play the flute.
Yes,
Allow it.
Llewellyn.
When I'm sitting in my teepee alone, sometimes I bring my drum in there, heartbeat, and then I'll put it down. And then I bring up my flute. And this is where I hear. So we're all going to be grounded now. These are the spirits that are in our world. Help us, to guide us. Grandmothers, I want to give good thanks in you visiting us today. Night. We listened and honored your wisdom, your knowledge. As you have shown us the way that we should keep our culture alive. You have shown us how strong we have become. You have guided us in many ways. Help us teach our children who is the future of our ways. We pray for all the people, the sick, the ill, people with addictions and drugs, alcohol, or any medication. We ask for the Spirit to heal those individuals. We ask for guidance and help supporting each of us. Oh Creator, as your gentle hands over our families, protect them. We give thanks to all as we are brothers and sisters, because we're under the treaty. We're all treaty people. Glutasivna, I'm sitting there about what's going on again. Children Lalan. We give thanks to all our ancestors who have come in We'll call upon you again. When we sit down and talk. We light the sacred pipe. Or we go into the sweat lodge. Or we talk in a talking circle. Help us in resolution. The guidance that will be foretold. We must educate ourselves. We must educate our family. Workers, brothers and sisters. We give thanks and sit with them all. Thank you. That was close and prayers. But that's nice, I like that. I like that.
Feeling done, very dull.
Thank you so much.
It's like, I mean, yeah, just. That's why I don't.